Welcome to She Said Homestead, the podcast that explores homesteading from a range of perspectives. We're Sage and Mickayla, two homesteaders, each with unique experiences, properties, and future goals for our homesteads. We're discussing various homesteading topics, sharing our personal experiences as women working full-time who are managing homesteads as well, and shining a light on the stories of other inspiring homesteaders.
Before we dive in, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you enjoy our podcast, please consider leaving a review. It really helps us grow and share these homesteading stories with even more people.
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. I'm Sage from Terra Nova Acres.
And I'm Mickayla from Calico Cow Acres, and we both have homesteads in Western North Carolina.
Today, we're going to be doing a little Q&A. We picked your brains for questions that you have about homesteading or just, personal life, social media, and we're going to get to all those. But before we start talking about all of your great questions, tell me a little bit about what you've been up to, Mickayla.
All right, well, it has been weeks at this point since we've recorded because the last time we tried to record, our power went out because there was a crazy thunderstorm. And it just so happens that currently it is storming for the first time since that storm. So fingers crossed the power doesn't go out again. But honestly, it's been no rain, so freaking hot, like well over 100 degrees here. So I have been doing what I feel like is absolutely nothing, like staying inside as much as possible. Trying to do garden tasks when I can in the evenings. Like we've been harvesting a bunch of stuff, but I would say that's pretty much the extent of like our outside work. So I am almost done harvesting my potatoes, and so far we've harvested 60 pounds. We've got like an eighth of them left to harvest, like a few more rows. It's not as much as I had hoped, honestly. But I never hilled them or anything, so it's as much as I could ask for, to be completely honest. And then I finished harvesting the rest of my garlic, which the hard neck garlic did not do nearly as well as the soft neck garlic. I will still continue to grow it because I like the scapes, but the soft neck was just like, I think it's just so hot down here. Like we're in the south. I think the soft neck garlic just does better down here, which makes sense. I think I got almost 40 pounds of garlic this year. Like I harvested almost 40 pounds of garlic. I harvested like probably 30 plus pounds of onions as well. My onions grew pretty well this year. The yellow and white ones, for the most part. The red ones are still kind of small, but there's like a lot of them. So I'm gonna grow more next year. But I have all of those curing in the basement, like potatoes, garlic, onions, all on shelves with a fan on them in the basement at this point. And then I've also been harvesting a like boatloads of green beans. I grew green beans this year. I covered them up and the deer haven't been able to eat them. So I'm very proud of that. Like I grew green beans. I know it's like a simple thing, but they didn't get eaten. I've been trying to go out and about and do more things like off the homestead the last few weeks, like because we can't really do much outside. So we've had a friend come stay with us. I went up to Michigan for my birthday and then came home like the day before my birthday. I still haven't made myself a birthday cake. Like that's literally how slacking I am. I have the stuff to do it. I'm like, I'm gonna do it, but it's been like 3 weeks almost 3 weeks at this point since my birthday. But we've done some fun things. Like we've gone out to dinner, honestly, more than I would like to admit. I have cooked dinner like twice in the last 2 weeks. Like I've been so exhausted because of the heat. I've had some health stuff going on that I've been dealing with that's kind of been taking up a lot of my mental capacity, so I haven't really been posting any videos or anything, but we went and picked blueberries. We picked 2 gallons, which ended up being like 12 pounds of blueberries. I got those preserved. Finally, I'm starting to work on cleaning out the freezer a little bit more intensively because the space is starting to be lacking significantly because I'm harvesting lots of tomatoes. So I rendered my lard finally, and I've got bacon that's thawing in one of our fridges downstairs to be I'm gonna like cure it in the next few days, and I've got chickens I'm gonna be breaking down in the next few days. And then I've also been dealing with all of the moose stuff still. That's still like a huge part of the saga. There's like probably another month or two left on that whole journey if everything goes well. But we've had a really hard time with all of that stuff. He's peeing everywhere, including our bed. And there's just so much laundry, and it's not a fun time. He's not having a great time. And then lastly, I started getting stuff this week to shift more towards some inside projects because I have just decided like, okay, the weeds that are in the garden are going to be out there and I can't do much about it because it's too hot for me to be out there. My body is like not cool with it. So I'm going to just shift to inside projects. We are going to start working on a couple of things in here. I've got a little bit of patching to do and some painting and ceiling scraping in our bedrooms, and we're going to try refinishing one of our bedroom floors. So lots going on. That's everything on my list, trying to update you on the last couple of weeks because we haven't really talked the last few weeks.
I know it's been strange. I'm so used to having like an hour plus of checking in with you and exchanging like what we're up to and all that. And I have my phases where I fell off the face of the earth to everyone who knows me, and that's the phase that I've been in lately. But yeah, it's been weird to not keep up with you. I don't like it.
What have you been up to the last few weeks since we haven't really chatted that much?
Oof. Yeah, the last few weeks, this year in general I've been aware that I have needed a change of pace. Uh, and so part of what I've been trying to do to hold myself accountable to that these last few weeks is to do way less. And it's been really nice because I haven't been, throwing myself into all of these big projects. I still have a lot going on, right? There's plenty of ongoing projects that I maintain, but there's nothing that I'm adding that's necessarily new. Um, and it's kind of lovely, like compared to the pace that I was running at, where I'm like, okay, it's Saturday. I have these dozen things on my list that I have to get done, and it's non-negotiable because then I've got to fit the dozen things in Sunday so that I can do whatever to balance the rest of my life the rest of the week. And now I'm like, what if I wake up at like 6:30 and make myself some coffee and just sit around for like 2 hours and then leisurely go milk the sheep and check the garden and do all the things? That actually sounds great. Um, so yeah, been getting a lot more sleep than normal. I'm not someone who goes to bed early, but lately now that I'm like letting myself relax and do what I want, I get tired at like 10:30, which I don't think that's happened ever in my life. But yeah, just doing the little things and actually making effort to like genuinely live kind of a slower life. It's been real nice. But there are things I have gotten done. The meat birds are here and they're currently in the pasture. I normally get like a slow Cornish that takes a little bit longer than the typical jumbo Cornish, but I couldn't get that this year, so I have the jumbo Cornish, and they're probably going to get harvested here in the next couple weeks, because they just grow so dang fast. And then for the garden, I haven't gotten any tomatoes yet. I probably have like 300 green tomatoes that are sitting on the plants, staring at me, and they've been staring at me for a while now. And they're probably all gonna ripen at once. I'm gonna be giving away tomatoes because I don't have the capacity to preserve that many at one time. Uh, but started to get some squash and beans in the last couple weeks, so that's cool. And I also started pulling my potatoes and got my garlic out of the ground and braided so that it's not also sitting there staring at me in the face, making me feel guilty every time I walk past it. So it feels good to have that done and the garden's underway and I'm starting to get stuff in. Uh, yeah, it's been nice.
I feel like we've both kind of hit that point. And I don't know if it's like a gonna be something that stays for me or if it's just this time of year that hits me like that where I'm like, okay, I need to actually like rest a lot more because the heat is really hard on me, but also I'm just like I've been going hardcore since January as far as like garden stuff goes because I've been starting seeds since January and like prepping and everything and um Yeah, we've been doing a lot more hanging out in the evenings and like actually having dinner at like a normal time at like 7. It's wild. Uh, and I got a this is silly, but like it ties into us. I got a photo scanner that's like the ones where you just like pop the photo in and it like scans it really quick and you can keep doing it. You don't have to like lift it up and like set the photo in and then the lid down and scan it and like the whole process. I have all of my family's photos throughout my whole childhood and stuff. Like I'm the one who has them all, because nobody else in my family is trustworthy enough to like take care of them. So I am like I literally told myself I have these like things I've wanted to do for literally years, and I'm like, we're not doing anything right now. That's like crazy. There's no huge projects going on. Taylor has some lingering projects, and like he's gonna start working on our duck coop soon, but there's not any huge projects for me besides preserving at the moment and then like literally trying to maintain the garden. And so yeah, I'm like sitting while we're watching TV at night and like scanning photos, and I just got embroidery hoops to I have a few embroidery projects that I'm gonna work on, um that like I just wanted to do for a while and I haven't had a chance to do it. And then there's just like some other random little projects that I'm like, they're not projects, they're like hobby things that I want to surround with. But it's like I never make time for them because I'm constantly working until I'm exhausted at night and then like going to bed. So we've been doing a lot more sitting on the couch and working on that kind of stuff, and that's been really enjoyable.
Okay, well, I think I'm ready to get to some of these listener questions if you are.
Yep.
All right, let's start with some of the homestead related ones. The first one being, how did you find your properties?
Zillow, there were like 4 properties within 45 minutes of Taylor's job in North Carolina, which we wanted to live in North Carolina, even though his job is in South Carolina, just over the border. There was like 4 properties we could afford that had like an acre or more, and this was one of them, and it had the most land, so we chose it. I like it was the most unlivable and the most trashed, but it had 8 acres, and the other ones only had an acre. And this one was also like 100 grand cheaper than those ones. So it was kind of like, I don't know. I wouldn't have chose the other ones. I don't even think we could have afforded them, honestly. So I'm glad we chose this one.
Yeah, I would say my process is very similar. So I knew that I wanted to be around Asheville, and I also hopped on Zillow and just kept drawing a larger and larger circle around the Asheville area until I found anything that I could afford and that had at least a couple acres. Uh, I did have to add the filter of the house has to be livable. I'm okay with outdated. I'm okay with need some TLC, but I have to be able to move in and be able to function in that house. So that meant there were 2 properties. They happened to be right next to each other in the same town-ish. And this is the place that didn't have foundation issues. So this is the place that I got.
Yeah, I think if I had the livable criteria, there were only 2 options out of the 4 we looked at that would have met that. And they were both still like they needed a lot of work. They were livable, but not like nice, I guess, if that makes any sense. But yeah, 8 acres, and we had the camper. So the camper let us buy somewhere that wasn't livable and still be able to like function as long as we were able to hook up to the power and use the bathroom in here, right? So I feel like that's a decent explanation. I don't know how other people find their properties and stuff, but Zillow is how I look for everything because I don't know, it's the easiest place to go. What is something you bought or built that was a total waste of time or money?
The first thing that comes to mind when I hear that question is fruit trees. Not that fruit trees are a waste of money, but I subscribed to the traditional advice that the first year you're there, you should get fruit trees in the ground as soon as you can. And because of that, I put fruit trees in some areas where they didn't do very well because of soil quality, or they got run over by livestock, or whatever, like fill in the blank. There's infinite reasons that they did not survive. And I wish that I would have just chilled out for a year or two and not felt that pressure to get those in the ground, because buying fruit trees, even bare root stuff, like it gets expensive really, really fast.
Honestly, I'm not really sure that I have a good answer for this because I feel like we have been so careful about like what we're investing in. Like nothing comes to my mind when I think of like a bad investment or like a waste of time or money. I would say maybe the thing that I could think of that I guess is my answer is the Bootstrap Farmer cups. I really loved those, but they faded with the sun and got really brittle really quickly. So I think I would probably just spend a good bit of money on other ones that maybe were a little bit bigger, that are probably going to last just as long because I don't think those ones will last me more than another year for the most part. Because those, like all of the tops of them are starting to break off. So the trays, however, those were a good investment. I will still be a stan for those because they're amazing.
That's what I was gonna say. If I had another answer, I would say 10, 20 trays, like the ones that you get on Amazon or whatever. I think they're terrible, but the Bootstrap Farmer ones, I love those. I'm probably gonna buy more because, yeah, I'll fill up my greenhouse. So I'm on the same page with you. I'm down with the Bootstrap Farmer 10, 20 trays. If you wanted to start homesteading now with very limited funds, how would you afford it? I would say that's what I've been doing the whole time. I mean, I have maybe a more gracious budget than some people, but I also I also am doing this on one income, and everything is calculated. So yeah, you got to figure out your priorities. Um, you don't have to do anything in the way that you see whoever on social media doing it. Just because you see somebody doing 100 meat birds for a year doesn't mean that you have to do 100 meat birds every year or meat birds at all. Um, Figure out what you want to do, figure out what matters the most to you, and put your resources towards that.
Yeah, I think again, this is like how we've been doing it this whole time because we do have very limited funds. Both of us. I think most people do at this point, to be fair. But yeah, you really just have to, I don't want to say like do everything cheaply, but you very much have to like choose which things you want to put the money into and which things you want to put the time into because sometimes there's going to be a project that you have to do janky so that you can make another project nice. And that's always like a push and pull that you're going to have to deal with. And it's something that we deal with on a daily basis. I do not have any issue spending money on something if I know it's going to be good quality and last me a long time. But that just means that other projects have to wait longer or other things have to be done less efficiently in order to put money towards that one thing at that specific time. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think the only other feedback that I have to add to that one is find your community. Find people, whoever it is, wherever it is. I don't care if it's a Facebook group. I don't care if it's one other person, if it's your neighbor. Um, Being able to find people, you found those mason jars for a great deal because you were plugged into community. You can trade labor with people. Like, how many times have you and Taylor come over to help me with a huge project that probably wouldn't have gotten done if I didn't just have that little extra bit of help? Um, Being in community with people will help tremendously in everything, really.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, like trading seeds with people, buying seeds and sharing a packet of seeds with somebody, that's cuts your cost in half immediately. So even little things like that. Okay, what is your advice for someone wanting to find an affordable property? My advice is find a time machine and go back 30 years.
I think people who maybe aren't homesteading right now overestimate how much land they think they need. I totally understand wanting to just like find that property that you want to invest in, and you're not going to want to leave once you put the work in. Good gracious, I understand that. But I have 3 acres. An acre of that is wooded. My pasture is probably an acre. My growing space, cumulatively total is probably like half an acre. You can do a lot with not that much space. You don't need 10, 20 acres. If you can find a deal on it, great. But that's don't let that be a barrier to entry for this.
Yeah, I would say lower your expectations as far as how much land you can find. If you're not finding how much land you want for the cost or for the amount of money that you have to put into it, then do exactly what Sage said. Like, you do not need as much land as you think you do to have to successfully grow a ton of food. And it might just have to be a transitional property if you do want to build up to a bigger property someday. But I mean, you can only do what you can do at this point in time. And I would personally rather get started on a smaller property earlier on than have to wait however many years to be able to afford a bigger property and then jump in to a massive property and not know what I'm doing at that point in time. So I think stepping stones aren't necessarily a bad thing.
How do you balance efforts and investments made on the home versus those made on the property? I think my answer for that is I haven't done anything to the house really. I mean, I had a plumbing issue that I was forced to fix, and I have invested a little bit of money in appliances. So I got a new fridge and a new stove oven. Those are things I use every day. Those are very, very important to me. But other than that, I haven't touched the house. So that's just not my priority. I made sure to buy a livable house so that I could just throw kind of everything at the outside. And when you, if you ever see my place, it's very obvious where my priorities lie. I have like 3 different gardens and a bunch of animals, and then you come inside and you're like, this is 60s, 70s. Okay, cool. And I'm okay with that.
Honestly, for us, it's just whatever fires need to be put out first, like whatever is the most urgent project. When we first bought this place, the most urgent project was getting a roof on the house because we needed to be able to use the bathroom in here and we needed to be able to store some things in here. And it was leaking everywhere, and we needed to pull all of the ceiling and walls and floors out because they were moldy and we needed to remediate it and like get it to a point where we could live in it, even if it was like an uncomfortable living situation. So that was like fire number one that we had to deal with. Like that was the most urgent thing. And I mean, our property is still like there are still parts of our property that we like maybe go to once a year, if that, because it's so overgrown because we haven't had like that's not high on the priority list. It's literally just like what is the most urgent thing that we're dealing with right now that needs to get done? And that's pretty much like everything on our to-do list is the most urgent things, whether that's house or property wise. And it's just like a big mixture of whatever needs to get done first. Okay, the next question is I am interested in getting sheep and want to hear more about your experience with them. So I'm gonna let you answer that one.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot of ways to answer that question. I overall 4.5 out of 5 stars. I'm only taking a half a star off because I had a ram who used to knock me to the ground, and they've been irritating me lately when I go to get the ewes on the milking station, and the lambs are protesting for their share of the alfalfa, and they'll step on my feet and knock into me, whatever. But like kind of a joke, right? I think they're great. I really appreciate them because they allow me to keep the grass mowed down. You know, if I had like a cow, or a horse or something, they would graze, but they wouldn't graze as completely. And so I'd still kind of have to do that management. And I've gotten to the point now where I just throw a temp fence up in the front yard and just let them mow my front yard for me too. And it works for everybody. They get more food and I get fewer chores. Um, let's see, what else? So at this point, I've used them for milk. I have used one for meat, and I've sheared them and saved their wool. I haven't really done anything in particular with it other than use a little bit for some mulch and let it compost in place here and there. I haven't had issues with parasites that you'll hear. It's kind of like the big thing with sheep is people are afraid of the parasites. And certainly in some conditions, I can see how that would really be a drawback. But I personally, in my setup, have not had to contend with that. Um, they've done great. It's been a huge learning curve in every aspect because I've never had a ruminant like that. Started with 3 of the ewes as lambs, raised them as bottle babies, got a breeding ram. They did their thing. And then this last year was all of our first times in lambing season, and that went great. I did research to make sure I was prepared for that, but for the most part, you know, they were great. No complaints. Hopefully that answers the question.
I feel like we have a couple different episodes that center on the sheep. So maybe we can, I mean, they're on our episode list. One of them is about the milk and like the lambing process. And then we have some about like the ruminants. And then I think we have one about the costs too. So there might be others too that I'm missing.
Is the ratio of food you grow versus the things you need to buy what you hoped for at the onset? I think that's a really good question.
I still buy a lot of things, but I grow like way more than I ever thought I would, I guess, if that makes sense. Like, I don't grow enough. I don't know that I grow enough tomatoes. I didn't last year for sure, to sustain me through the whole year, like all of our tomato products. But it has also, growing my own tomatoes and finding that community here has also encouraged me to not just give in and say, okay, well, I'll can all of the tomatoes I grow, and then I'll just buy jarred or I'll just buy like canned tomatoes from the grocery store for the rest of the year. It's encouraged me to go to the farm store and get $10 25-pound boxes of tomatoes. And although I didn't grow them, I am able to preserve all of my tomato products for the year from those tomatoes. And I spend like, $60 and I have every single tomato product I could possibly need for at least a year from those. And so I guess like I don't know that I had an expectation for like that ratio. I wasn't really sure going into this, but I would say it's encouraged me to look more locally and seasonally for things in general and provide them for myself for the year through preservation even if I didn't grow them myself.
I like that answer. I have a slightly different answer, but that made me think. I think before I got into homesteading and when I was looking at what that might feel and look like, I definitely had a perception that I could do like 75%, grow 75% of my food, have that reliably and consistently on the plate, and that I would have to buy way less from the grocery store. And what I have been confronted with is it's not that I can't grow a ton of food because I can. And it's not that I lack the skills or know-how to do all the things. It's that there's a constant trade-off of time. I know how to make soap and lotion and some really great bread from scratch and can my tomatoes and make ketchup from scratch and do all of this stuff, right? But what what's kind of hit me in the face recently is that I don't have time. I'm capable of it, but for me, in my particular setup, because it's just me here, I'm the only one keeping up with all the stuff. Uh, I I have my things that I buy instead of do myself because I don't have the time in my budget to work a full-time job and homestead and take care of myself and do all the other things. So I am still buying stuff at the store. And regardless of how much I could grow, I'm still gonna get olive oil at the store. I'm still gonna get salt. I'm still gonna get spices. I'm still gonna get coffee. Oh my gosh, I'm still gonna get coffee. Right? Like there will always be those things, uh, even if I had unlimited time.
There's also the fact that something I have realized I didn't really think about this before, I don't believe. I've kind of up till this point, we might be turning a corner. Up till this point, I have replaced the probable I have probably replaced my like any savings I would be having by growing my own food with buying the tools and things I need to be able to process that food. So jars, lids, canners, uh, the applesauce, tomato sauce maker thing, like all of that, the gadgets that you need to preserve your own food, a vacuum sealer, freezers, like all of that, anything I would have saved up till this point, I've probably spent that and more on all of the gadgets and necessities to be able to preserve my own food. And now I feel like we're finally at a point where I don't like I've kind of got most of that stuff at this point. Um, except for like a freeze dryer. So we might be turning a corner there, but that is something to keep in mind. If you could magically stop doing one task forever, what would it be?
That's a really good question. I feel like the thing that I resent doing rotates because this lifestyle is so seasonal that almost, not perfectly, but almost, as soon as I get sick of doing one thing, then it's cycled out. And then I get sick of doing something else. Uh, if the chickens could be magically fed every morning and I didn't have to do anything, that'd make me pretty happy, I think.
Am I allowed to say working a 9 to 5 job? Is that
No,
allowed?
because that would totally be my answer too. Homesteading wise.
Okay. I think it would have to do with water of some sort, whether it's watering the garden or refilling the duck pool every day because it's so hot right now that it turns into algae in literally a day. So we have to refill their pool every single day. Um, one of those two things, watering something. That takes so long.
Do you have any bougie or random habits slash hobbies that don't fit the homestead vibes?
We had this question when Taylor and I did our little Q&A too, and I asked him, and his things, like his hobbies are literally like expensive guitars and BMWs. Like he's a car guy and that's expensive. So neither of those things fit. For me, the homestead is my hobby and it's also really expensive. So I don't know. Um, I love going out and getting like coffee and stuff. Like I don't make myself feel guilty for like going out and getting little treats. That's not like bougie, I don't think, but I will forever be somebody who like appreciates going out to dinner or going out to a brewery or going out for coffee or something. Like I think I didn't grow up getting to do that a lot, so it's like it feels special to me.
Yeah, I guess that depends on what you count as homestead vibes, right? Uh, I I tend to see the homestead sphere kind of split into where like some people view homestead vibes as like ultra traditional, very conservative, and like if you haven't been here long, clearly neither one of us are that. Neither one of us subscribe to that vibe. And then there's like kind of like the hippie, crunchy, barefoot side of things, which I would say I'm more on that side of. So there's definitely plenty of things that I do that are not the conservative side of homestead vibes. But if you know me at all, I think that's very apparent. Uh, I'm on the same page with you where it's like I was drawn to homesteading because it's a culmination of all my hobbies. I get to garden and I get to be outside and I get to be around animals and I get to uh make really good food a lot of the time. And that's one of the things that like I enjoy the most out of life. Go for it.
Homestead food feels bougie, doesn't it? Like in my mind, that is bougie. But also I can see like maybe if someone said like splurging on tattoos and stuff and like, like guilty pleasures. That's kind of how I take it.
Yeah, I think I think I can be easily classified as bougie for my weck jars. I think that puts me in the bougie category. Other than that, the only other thing I can think of is like I have sparkling water every day, which those things are like $3 a bottle now. That's crazy. But I will not give that up. I need that in my life.
I think both of us are the kind of people, and we've talked about this before. We're both the kind of people who will spend money on something if we want it, and we don't have a problem with that. So if you want to call us bougie for that, that's fine. I'm cool with that.
But then we'll also walk around in like boots that are breaking down for a year because we're like, I'm not dropping $45.
Yeah.
Just again, priorities.
What's something you miss from your pre-homestead life that might surprise people?
I didn't really love the version of life I was living before this. So nothing. Actually, okay, I'll take that back. I do miss being able to consistently. So I lived in Colorado before this. I do miss being able to consistently get out on like some really amazing trails and just like retreat into the mountains whenever I wanted. I'm in Asheville. I could totally do that. There's the trails here for it. I just don't have slash make the time to do that. And I miss that a lot. I enjoy being just in the mountains on a trail, mostly not around other people.
Okay, my answer is something that was very short-lived for me because it only lasted like maybe a year between graduating from my master's and moving here. But having free time in the evenings and not having like a million things that I'm like trying to deal with each day. Like I just was able to make dinner and go out to my couple of raised beds if I wanted to work on something, or we were working on like painting our house. So like little things like that. But just like hanging out in the evenings and like doing puzzles and yeah, free time. I will say free time.
That made me remember, I missed the gym. I used to be like kind of a gym rat, and I was in the gym like 6 days a week. I miss that so much, and I keep trying to get back, and I haven't figured out how to balance it. So,
That's what I thought your answer was going to be. Like that was when I read that question, I thought you were going to say the gym.
yeah, now that I remember my previous life, it's that. I've lost like all my muscle mass, and I'm really bitter about it. Anyway,
Okay.
what do you do to motivate yourselves when you just can't, don't want to do the necessities?
I feel like we just did a whole episode about this, didn't we? Like it's one of the most recent ones. I think my answer for that episode, and I will stand by it, was let myself pick whatever the hell I want to do off my list, whatever's going to give me the most dopamine in that moment, and just do it because at least I'm doing something.
Yeah, my answer is pretty similar. For one, when I get to that place, I know that means I'm not burning out, I'm burnt out, and I need to block off time to rest, even if it's inconvenient, it is necessary. That's what that's telling you. You either are uninspired or you're burnt out. But yeah, you gotta bribe yourself with the little dopamine treats. I don't care if it's for me, it's usually coffee. What I've been doing recently is I made your ice cream base recipe, and I made a whole bunch of it so I can only process so much at one time, and it's kind of just like custard, right? When it's not frozen. And I've been adding that to my afternoon coffee. That makes me enjoy life. Uh, yeah, it can be whatever you want. For me it's usually coffee, but it can be whatever little dopamine treat. It can be picking whatever the hell you want off your list. Just that thing that like makes you a little bit giddy. Bribe yourself with that.
If you were given enough land, would you want a farm on a scale big enough to be your full-time income?
Not in a traditional sense. I have actually some very strong opinions about this, and I think the public conception of what it means to farm has been very, I'll call it Joel Salatinized, and painted in this very romantic way that it is just not. Maybe that's like 3% of it, and then the other 97 is just grit doesn't cover it. So I wouldn't want, especially with me just as one person, I wouldn't want more land because I don't know how I would even keep up with it. But there are so many versions of farming. It doesn't have to be, 100 acres with row crops or beef cattle. It can be whatever you want. And there are infinite ways to do that. You can do microgreens, you can do flowers, you can do whatever. So maybe in that sense, sure. If I could work with not a ton of land, but maybe, you know, what I have, that's not a no.
Taylor and I actually talked about this. We've been talking about this week. I don't know if it's something we'll ever actually do, but there are some properties nearby our property, like adjacent and like across the street and stuff that are just like vacant and they're owned by somebody, but they're not used for anything. They're just mowed. Um, and we've talked about potentially in the future purchasing them. And if we were to ever get more land to do something like this, it would be some sort of U-pick farm. Like, I love the idea of not necessarily like the super touristy ones where they're like a whole event that you're going to like the whole day, but like if we had there's like I think across the street there's like 3 or 4 acres. If we had that and just planted like tons of blueberries and like we're able to maintain them and get them set up and like it's an investment of time because you have to wait for them to mature, or fruit trees of some sort, doing something like that where people can come pick their own and it's an experience that right now we have to drive an hour to be able to go do that. And to be able to bring something like that to where we are, I think even on a small scale, that would be really cool. Would it be a full-time income? I have no clue. Especially if it's just one fruit. But it would be something like that and value-added products like maybe making wines or ciders or baked goods in like a separate facility on that site. Like the property across the street from us is what I'm talking about. There's a huge pole barn there that's got like 4 big garage doors and like power and everything. Like we'd have to put a kitchen in there because I can't do cottage industry stuff in our house because we have kitties. So we have talked about it and like maybe in the future, but it would take a lot of money to invest that up front. So that would probably be years down the line, if we ever get to that.
Okay, now on to the social media related questions. The first one being, have you had to cut out a whole segment or scrap an episode completely?
Both of those things. We cut out whole segments all the time because we go on rants that nobody wants to listen to, or we just sound stupid. I think we've only ever had to re-record one whole episode, not counting this one where we got like 3 questions in and my power went out. But the sound was off on one of our episodes that we've had to completely redo. I think it only happened once though.
Yeah, that was in the early days. I forget exactly what was wrong with it, but it was either incredibly quiet to the point that like we couldn't hear one of us, or the echoes were just were just, yeah, made it to the point that you didn't want to listen to it. And then, yeah, this one, I think we rescheduled the first attempt. The second attempt, we got part of the way into it, and then your power went out, and then like 2 minutes later, my power went out. So this is the third try for this one. This has been a particularly difficult episode to get recorded.
There was one time where for just like one sentence of the episode, it was like earlier on, I remember you had to like basically do a voiceover and try to match your own mouth, like talking, because there was one section that like got really weird for some reason. And you did it pretty expertly. I was like impressed.
I think I spent like 20 minutes watching the original footage and being like, okay, it's this line, and then whizzing it over. Yeah, I dare you to try to figure out which one it was. You'll never find it. I don't even remember which one it was.
Would you be up for having a Discord for the podcast in the future? I do not need anything else to keep up with. I'm sorry. No.
That, nor do I need to learn a new platform. I'm aware of it. I'm sure it's great. My brain's full. I can't do more things. Veto. No. Sorry.
I have no capacity to learn more things at this point. I've been on Discord before for other things. I think I went on it to sign up for one. My friends like set up a Discord for like our friend group. I used it once, never looked at it again. And that's exactly how this would go.
Do you feel pressure to perform your values online, like sustainability, slow living, etc.?
That's a weird question. I don't think so, because I really usually am just the only time I feel pressure to film anything or like to a certain way in a video, I would say is when I am doing sponsored content, because there are certain things that like there are certain things that the brands want you to say in the videos. And other than that, I would say no. Like I am literally filming when I'm filming. I am filming whatever I'm wearing, whatever the freak my hair looks like, usually sweaty with no makeup on, and you're just like seeing whatever is happening, and I'm just setting up the camera and like occasionally talking to it. I try really hard to be authentic in things, and like sometimes I will think ahead of time like what I want to say, but I try to make sure it's not like scripted and like I want it to be genuine.
I think the closest to that I've felt pressured is, for example, if I'm trying to make a video about getting the garden planted, maybe in real life, if I weren't doing the video at all, I would break that up between like 7 different days in a week. Whereas if I'm trying to record it, I'm going to feel pressure to kind of get it as much done at one time as I can. And maybe that's not as true to reality, with the camera versus without the camera. But that's not necessarily performative. That's like, I want to get this over with because I don't want to set the camera up 7 times. And then the video is going to feel more choppy if there's, like 7 different outfits or whatever. That kind of, in that aspect, sure. But yeah, I'm kind of like, if you don't think it's what I should be doing, I really don't care. And you don't have to watch it. Bye.
Have you ever gotten into an argument with your partner because of the Homestead podcast or YouTube?
Way back when I had a partner, when I started this, for like the first 6 months of this, uh, it social media was a point of contention. Yeah. I'm trying to figure out how to say this without like throwing that person under the bus. There were arguments that were had. Yeah, it's not like it became any sort of really huge issue. But I think it's very important to, before you take on projects, especially if you're doing something like homesteading, to have that conversation up front about, hey, is this an us thing? Is this an us 50-50 thing? Are you really not that into it? And I need to figure out, if it's something that I care enough to own on my own or mostly. Make sure before you get into things, that everyone's on the same page about where responsibilities fall and what the amount of time that that's going to take. And even if those conversations are had, sometimes they need to be reminded.
I don't think Taylor and I have ever gotten in an argument about the podcast, especially. I don't think YouTube, maybe me asking him to like film certain things, like if he forgets to like move the camera or if he forgets to film, I'm like, what are you doing? Um, I've never gotten like upset with him for it though, because it's like it's more of my thing, and I'm like just grateful that he will help me film in any circumstance. And like there are times where I'm like, okay, I would like for you to do this, and he asks me now, like he knows that like I might want to film certain things, so he's really good about asking about it. In the beginning, it was a struggle getting him to like be on camera at all because he's very shy. But our videos do a lot better as far as like views and how much money we make when he's in them too, like when it's the both of us, which I totally understand. Like it's a lot more dynamic than just me talking. So he's really come around to it. And I think like there are other things. He's going to be getting into like making guitars and stuff at some point soon. Like actually as like a business. So he wants me to like help him film things for that and like have a channel for that specifically. So like it's something that we're kind of like moving into doing more together, which I really enjoy. And then as far as the homestead goes, uh I, first of all, we don't really have arguments. Like we very rarely have arguments. Like we're just best friends and we like know we've been together for 10 years. Like we know each other well and we know how we're gonna react to things. Um but like I would say maybe like on the design of things is the only time we ever argue about stuff. And it's literally because like I have a picture in my head of what I want like the duck house to look like versus what he's expecting it to look like. And we both have like this engineer mind of how things are put together. Like I'm a designer, I'm literally an architect, and he's an engineer. So like we both have a different view of how this should look. And then we end up talking about it and we're like, we have to draw it out so we know what each other are thinking and we come together with a solution that usually ends up being better than either one would be. So it's like a teamwork thing, but it's like you got to work through it, you know?
Yeah, if you're in a relationship with someone and you maybe don't work well together, in certain circumstances, like on projects, if things get contentious, maybe consider that beforehand. But I don't know. I consider myself to be a very peaceful partner. I don't really have any big arguments when I'm in relationships like that. So depends on who's involved, I guess. Okay. This is not my wording. This is someone else's wording. So don't hate me. Why do most homesteader icons throw in some sort of religion? As an LGBT person and an ex-Catholic, I get so thrown off guard when I get attached to an influencer and then bam, God. I understand exactly what you're talking about. Trying to think of maybe a less confrontational way to phrase that. But yeah, why are a lot of the homesteaders that you see on social media very, I mean, there is that side that's very conservative and very religious, and that feels when you don't fit that mold, feels very exclusionary. And especially in the political climate that we're in right now, there's a lot that tends to come attached to that. And it's I don't I feel like that applies in general life, not just homestead social media. Um, but yeah, there kind of are those two sides to the coin when it comes to homesteading, and especially homesteading social media. Is there's the crunchy hippies, and then there's a lot of more what's labeled as conservative values and religion. I don't know why there are a ton of them. I think there's just as many of us out there who are the other side of that coin, but maybe don't get pushed by the algorithm as much. I don't know, Mickayla, what are your thoughts on this? I'm slightly panicking.
I have, I think, four things to say on this. One is me too. I feel the same way. When I get thrown off by it, it catches me off guard sometimes when I'm like watching a channel and then that's there and I'm like, oh, I have to like compartmentalize things. The second thing I would say is going back to the authenticity, the question we just had about authenticity and like performing our values online. I try really hard not to, one, judge people in general. Like, I want people to be their true selves. I would much rather have somebody being their self online and being authentic to them in making their content than faking or like being something that they're not, just to make people comfortable. And like I have the ability to compartmentalize that. Like I like watching Homestead channels, even if they don't align with my values 100%. Like I have the ability to discern like what I'm okay with consuming and what I'm not okay with consuming and supporting. And I try to do the same way in real life too. Like I go off of the platinum rule of treat people how they would want to be treated, and also that diversity is a good thing in our lives. So I can't say that I like want to surround myself with people different than me and then say, well, I'm not watching any religious homestead channels. Like that doesn't fit together. So like I think that having diversity in our circles and in life in general is a good thing. And so I'm okay with associating with people that are different than me. Um, but I will say when there starts to be a lot of like heavy preaching and or religious talk, I do kind of get thrown off. And there are some videos of people's that like I just don't watch. Like Roots and Refuge, I watch a lot of her videos. The devotional ones, I just don't watch. And that's perfectly fine. I have a lot more I could say about this, but I feel like I should stop there.
Yeah, I think the only other thing that I want to say about that is it's one thing as a white straight passing woman to be able to say, well, you know, I don't want to just surround myself in an echo chamber of people who look and think exactly like me. And then it's another thing to be looking at that content as, for example, an LGBT person, and then you come across something that you're like, oh, okay, you actively disagree with my way of life and don't accept me as a person. I think that would be a very different experience that I can't speak to because I'm a straight passing white woman.
Yeah, I will add to that, like there are channels that I have watched in the past and I won't watch anymore because there are things that like I will draw the line at. There's so much like it's speaking specifically on just like the religion aspect, not any other values, I guess is what I'm talking about here. But and the other values bleed into like blatant disregard for other human lives and like it's very outspoken and it's not just me assuming it, then I will draw the line and be like, okay, I'm not watching this channel anymore. Um, but yeah, I guess that's all I'm gonna say on it. Like I'm sorry. I don't know why. I don't know the answer to why. I mean, actually I do know the answer to why. Because the channels that are big homestead channels promote each other and they're that promotion is of other channels that are like them, and they just happen to mostly be religious. So I think that's a big part of it. There's like cross promotion, and then the algorithm likes them because they're big channels, and it's just a snowball. Okay, what's the most important thing you've learned about yourself from doing the podcast? I'm really bad at talking.
That's the most important thing.
Most obvious thing.
The most important, that feels like a heavy, like I feel like I gotta really get that answer right. The most important thing that I've learned about myself from doing the podcast. How much I enjoy being close to and in community with people who exist on my same wavelength. I mean, Mickayla, obviously, like that's you, but also, reading the listener comments that I don't know. I kind of have always felt like I'm just this giant weirdo floating out in space, and like I'm different, and that's my curse. But that's not the case. Like none of us fit into this arbitrary box of societal expectation. Like we're all a little bit weird in our own ways. You just gotta find your weirdos. And I feel like I've found my weirdos and learned that I'm not just by myself floating in space.
Okay, that's a really good answer. I have a couple. So I would say one, the first one that ties to yours is that I value community more than I realized. And I feel like that's come up in like every episode. I'm always like, community, community, community. Like I listen back to, I'm like, oh my gosh, stop talking about community, shut up. But that's it's made me realize that I value that a lot. It's made me realize that there's space in the homesteading community for our voices, like for our perspective. And in general, I feel like it's made me a lot more confident in using that voice. Like I have the ability to think very critically and deeply about things, and having the podcast has really given me the space to like sit and ruminate on stuff and like talk about it. And I don't know that I would have come to a lot of the conclusions on these deep topics that we've talked about otherwise if we didn't have the podcast.
And these last category of questions are personal questions that you all had for us. So we'll start with, what are your star charts? Sun, moon, rising, etc.
Okay, I don't know all of my like planets and everything, but I do know my sun, moon, and rising. So I am a Cancer sun. I'm like a cusp baby of Gemini and Cancer, but I am born in Cancer. I am a Virgo moon and I am a Gemini rising.
You've told me that before, and I forgot the Virgo moon part, and I kind of have a hard time picturing that.
Taylor's a Virgo sun, and I feel like that's why we get along really well. Like we both have I it makes sense when you look into like the details of things. I get it for me. I feel like I associate most with my rising more than my sun for sure.
I get weird about telling people my chart. I have a weird chart. Uh, but Sun in Aquarius, shocker. Um, Moon in Pisces, and Aries rising. Um, for anyone who enjoys astrology and is interested in that kind of stuff. Uh, I also have a Pisces stellium. I think I have like four, if not five, placements in Pisces. So I am. It's really easy to hurt my feelings. Yeah, basically.
I got a lot of water signs too mixed in there. We're real emotional. It's fine. But also the Aries rising, that makes a lot of sense. I can very much see that.
Yeah, it depends on what side of me you get. I definitely agree with that rising is kind of like your first impression and more of like your public persona. And then inside, I'm just a giant, very sensitive teddy bear.
What do your families think about the way you live?
Like homesteading or like in general.
Let's go with homesteading.
I don't fully know the answer to that. I don't think they'd ever really tell me. So I'm gonna give you not what's been told to me, but what I think the answer is. I think when I made this move, they thought I was having a mental breakdown and that I was going to regret it and request to be bailed out in like 6 months. Just because from their perspective, it was kind of came out of left field, whereas it was something that I had been sitting on and dreaming about for a very long time and just kind of didn't speak it out loud. Um, so I think they were very surprised and very apprehensive. Um, I think they hear how busy I am and are worried about me. And also, I've, become someone who speaks openly about my mental health online. I think that also doesn't help the worrying aspect. Not that my internal experience is any different. If anything, I'm a heck of a lot better off than I used to be, but I didn't used to make other people aware of it. So yeah, I think there's a lot of apprehension. I think there's a lot of worry. I think there's a lot of confusion and skepticism involved in the way that I choose to live my life. But also balanced with like a little bit of like, yeah, that's cool. And it's cool that you've been able to pursue that and get to a certain place with it and maintain it. I don't think they necessarily saw it playing out that way. Um, I guess I'll throw in the bonus answer of just in general, not just homesteading, just me as a person. I don't think I am the person they aimed to raise. I have tattoos. I have face piercings. I'm single in my 30s. Oof. And I live alone. So don't think any of that panned out the way they thought it would.
Okay, I think overall, I'm gonna say just like generally, my family thinks what we're doing is cool. And I say that because I don't think they fully grasp what we're doing here. Um, I don't think that they get like I think they understand that we work really hard and we do like we're constantly busy and doing things. I don't think they get the extent of it. And I don't think you really can unless you're doing it. So like I understand. Um, but I like my dad, I know he sends me pictures of his tomato plants in his two tomato plants in his pots, and he's like, I'm growing tomatoes too. Like it's the same. And I'm like, okay. Um, I it's really hard to relate to them. Like I mean that's just a general thing. That's not a homestead thing, but I would also say that. I would also say that in general, my family is this is probably not what they expected from me. They expected us to move to North Carolina because we wanted to do that for a long time. But I think that my family probably expected me to be working like somewhere in the city and going into work and being at like a fancy job and probably having children by now. And yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what they expected. Probably going to church. That's not something that I do. So I think I'm a surprise. Hopefully not a disappointment.
Isn't family fun? Anyway. What are your day jobs?
I currently work as an architectural designer at a design build firm in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I work remotely, and my best friend is my coworker slash boss, and I design people's home renovations in their kitchens and their bathrooms and new homes that they're building, their vacation homes, all the things like that.
And I am an environmental consultant. That's a very broad umbrella. I work remotely now. I haven't always. So more specifically, if you're really curious what I do, the field that I work in, I work for environmental companies, and we are contracted by oil and gas companies. And we support them whenever they have a release or whenever they are taking down a facility. There are a lot of very stringent state regulations. Even though I live in North Carolina, I work for a company in Colorado. And fun fact, Colorado has the most stringent regulations in America for oil and gas production. And so I used to be the person who went out in the field and collected the soil and groundwater samples. I did that for a few years, and now I'm the person in the office who stares at a bunch of Excel sheets and looks at all the data and says, yes, this is good. This is not going to cause harm to humans or the environment, and we can close a project, or says, no, we need to keep doing more work, and here's what we should do to make it right so that it's not going to hurt anybody. And then write all the fancy reports and then submit it to the state, and then a lot of the times go back and forth with the state about what's reasonable. So yeah, that's what I do. I'm a scientist.
This next one's really funny. Sage, is that your real name?
Fun answer to this one. Yes and no. So it is my name, but it is not my legal first name. It's technically my middle name, and it's what I've gone by since I graduated high school. Uh, I really don't like my legal first name, but it's Hannah, and I very much feel more like a Sage than like a Hannah. But there you go. Now you know.
I still think it's hilarious that I told Taylor your real name, like your real first name is Hannah, and he's like, I could see that. And I was like, I don't see that at all. I was like, I think she's gonna be offended by that.
Like, I can see that in the sense of, okay, like very normal blonde white woman from the South.
You don't look like a
Yeah, in
Hannah.
that sense. Like technically on paper, that's what I am, but also like, good Lord, I hope that's not the impression, the extent of the impression that I leave.
You just don't give the vibe of a Hannah. I don't know. Not necessarily like Hannah's not a bad thing. That's just not like the vibe you give. I don't know.
Yeah,
I like
that's
the
not
name
the vibe I
Hannah,
want to
just
give. No
not
offense
your
to
name.
any Hannahs out there. I promise.
I have
It's just
I
not
have
me.
multiple
That's what I'm saying.
friends. I have multiple friends named Hannah, and like they're great. It's just not like I don't look at you and see like Hannah. You don't look like a Hannah. I don't know. I can't explain it further than that. You just don't look like a Hannah.
What's your favorite music?
I will literally listen to anything that I like music that I can sing to. I'm not a good singer, but like when I'm cooking and stuff, I like to sing while I'm listening to music or gardening sometimes. Um, I love Taylor Swift. I love country. I love specifically like 90s and 2000s country. I love rap, like 2000s rap. Like hip hop and stuff. Lil Wayne, I know every single word of every single one of his songs, guaranteed. I like electronic music. I don't know. I don't really have a favorite. I know what I don't like. I don't like metal and like screamo and stuff. I like indie and like folk, like Noah Khan. I like throwback music. I don't know, anything really.
Okay, yeah, it's a good selection there. That's decent. Uh, for me, I feel like it very heavily depends on the time of year. Right now, when the weather's warm and it's nice, I listen to a lot of like R&B type stuff, soul music, Leon Bridges type vibe. And then when it's getting colder and the leaves are falling off the trees, and I'm very sad, that's when I listen to like the singer-songwriter, indie, folk, Noah Khan type stuff, where it's like it's very sad music. That's what I listen to.
I have to pull up my day list right now. I want to see what it says. Belter Scream Wednesday night. Interesting.
My day list is called Cozy Smooth Wednesday Night. That feels accurate.
All right. The last question on this list is funny to me. Do either of you play an instrument?
Oof. Can I play an instrument and do I play an instrument are two different questions. I grew up doing piano lessons. That's how I learned to read sheet music. Then I did chorus for a really long time, which is not technically an instrument, but it's in the realm. And singing's always been more my thing than anything else, so I'll include it. And then I tried to learn guitar once and was like, absolutely not. This is not how my brain works, and abandoned that. I don't, I think it'd be really hard for me to sight read sheet music and play piano now. It's been a very long time. I could probably do better singing, but still difficult.
I grew up, okay, so I went to like a really small private Christian school growing up, and like literally there was 5 people in my class. And so I grew up playing piano, or like kind of, like I wasn't good at it, but I took piano lessons. I grew up in choir through most of like my childhood and like middle school and everything. And I did bells, but I have not a musical bone in my body. So no, I do not play an instrument. It's I can't even fathom like when I don't know how people play instruments. It blows my mind. It's really cool. Taylor plays the guitar all the time, and I love watching him play the guitar and like listening to it, but no, I like singing. I'm not great at it. Um, but it's fun. So that's my instrument.
I haven't thought about this in a very long time, but now that I'm thinking about it, I always regretted not learning to play the drums. And the reason that I never tried it was because my brother played the drums, and I was actively trying to not just like get my personality from copying the people around me. So I like made a weird arbitrary rule for myself. I was like, I can't play the drums because that wouldn't be me. That's just me seeing somebody else do it and think it's cool and want to do it. But I actually think I would have been really good at that if I had ever learned. And now I just have 100,000 other priorities, and I'll never know.
Yeah, I mean, give me Guitar Hero and I can kick anyone's butt. Like I'm really good at Guitar Hero. But real instruments, mm-mm. I was like really into sports growing up. Like I played all of the sports that I had the ability to. So that was my thing more than music.
All right, that's all the questions that you all sent to us to answer. But before we leave off this episode, we have one more thing to tell you guys, and that is that this will be the last podcast episode for She Said Homestead. Uh, Maybe not forever, but at the very least, we're gonna take a very, very long break from this. Uh, we have so enjoyed getting to do this, and we are incredibly grateful to everyone who's tuned in to listen to us. But for both of us, we have a lot going on. I have my personal stuff, and for my own reasons, I'm stepping away from social media in general, I think. And, Mickayla has her life and also a million things going on. And being able to reclaim, 4 to 12 hours out of every week is honestly going to make a huge difference in our overall quality of life. So it's not that we're setting this down because we don't enjoy it. We do. It's not that we don't enjoy getting to be part of your community online. We do. It's just that this has been a phase in a chapter, and it's coming to an end to allow us to live our lives in ways that we've really been meaning to and reaching for a long time.
I think you covered all that pretty well. But yeah, I just want to say thank you guys for listening. And we'll see you when we see you. Maybe that's on social media at some point. But for now and for the foreseeable future, the podcast is on hold, on pause, done. We're not really sure. But yeah, we just want to say thank you for hanging out with us for the last year and a half. It's been a really fun time. We've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, how many episodes have we put up that are going to stay up for you all to listen to? 74? I mean, if you really
That's a
want
lot.
to, you can still spend a whole lot of time with us.
Yeah, and I mean, I personally am still going to be posting. I'm actually planning to take July off for the most part of posting videos on my channel, but I will still be filming some things. I'm just I need a break from editing in general. And there's a lot going on behind the scenes that like I just mentally need a break. Um, so in August, you can find me on social media again, but I don't know when you'll be able to find Sage. Maybe on my social media occasionally.
I don't think I'll disappear completely, but I'm certainly not going to be juggling multiple accounts and multiple platforms. I think I will just do something very sweet and simple, and the people who want to keep in touch with me can.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of She Said Homestead. We hope you enjoyed our chat. Before we say goodbye, we'd love to hear from you. Send your homesteading stories to us at shesaidhomestead@gmail.com. We can't wait to share them on the air. To stay connected, follow us on Instagram for updates and sneak peeks at what's coming up next.
If you like video podcasts, make sure you subscribe to the She Said Homestead YouTube channel too. We can't thank you enough for being part of the She Said Homestead community. Until next time, happy homesteading.